living some little men and women.
The Archons are non-physical, and they actually manipulate the reptilian force, although the reptilians are so proud that they wouldn't accept that. The Archons are in their own way trapped, and they can see the way that the human race is developing, and they need to leave. They cannot leave through the portal because the portal is on the verge of collapsing.
That most reptilians will look on humans as the lowest of the low. When dealing with military, they have a first interaction protocol where the humans have to bow to them. After that, they don't have to do that because they've already shown their subservience to them. If you look at very wealthy bloodline families, the reptilians look on them as not equals, but as the anointed ones of power. So they don't have to bow generally. For instance, if a Rothschild grouping, the alien will have the reptile will have the head chair. There'll be a beautiful carved chair somewhere, and that's where he will sit, and then the family will sit round. They don't have to bow at that point, but there will be a ceremonial point where they have to do the bowing. But you're really talking to me about ordinary Joe or Josephine in the house, and the reptilian comes in. That's very rare. That's incredibly rare. Reptiles do not generally come into a house to waste their time with a human. They'll send a grey. But where a reptile does come down, it's because that individual is so important that it requires an interaction from the high level. Again, it depends on that individual. What is that person to them? What is that person to humanity? And they have, for want of a better word, time machines where they can predict ahead what each person will do. And if they see a person as a threat to them, they will attempt to come along, interact with them, and send them off on a different course.
And your first time you came face to face with an alien was when you were about sort of 6 to 8 months?
No, I would have come face to face with such a creature much earlier. The one you're referring to, I think, is a little bit later.
Okay, so when the first one then?
About 3 months old, 3 months to 4 months old.
And what does this alien look like? Because obviously we have images in our mind of the ones that we see, you know, in movies or that sort of image. What did your alien look like?
You're absolutely right. Hollywood's very good at putting out little creatures that people know as greys. This one researchers call a mantid, or in America it's referred to as a mantis. It's a green creature. It's about 7 foot tall, and this one wore a robe or a cloak, purple coloured. There we go, that's one of my drawings there.
Oh, okay.
And the creature literally reached into the cot that I was in. I remember it distinctly. It had wooden bars, green, yellow, red, blue, with like an abacus, painted abacus on the top. And this creature just reached and lifted me up, and then I was actually tilted over to look straight into its face.
So these are experiences, and you don't use the word abduction, but you use the word contact, because you are a willing subject, a willing participant.
They made it very clear to me that my soul is composed of 3 parts as a percentage: 33% reptilian, 33% mantid, and 33% human. The beings that I normally see, the beings that come to collect me, in America, researchers call them mantis. In Britain, we call them mantid. The other major entities that I'm very familiar with are the draconius reptilians. I don't see many of the little greys, which is perhaps unusual. And also the species that come from Orion or from Sirius, which have called the feline or the lion species. So it's mainly the mantis, the reptilian, draconis reptilian, because there are many sorts of reptilian, and then the feline species. So yes, it's been ongoing ever since I can remember.
So from the moment there when you were obviously very young, and you were meeting them in their various guises, when was the first time that you believed that you had contact outside of your living environment? I want to say the word abducted, obviously, but when were you taken? When did you go?
That's a very incisive question. It's a very good question. In those early days, I wouldn't know they were aliens. To me, they were just things that came to visit me, and they were not distinguishable from my real family. Because these things have never hurt me, I never built up any sort of scaremongering or fear of them. I think from about 1963, That was my first experience of being taken off the Earth into a craft.
And what did that? Can you remember what that looked like?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It was not a traditional Hollywood type flying saucer. It was a teardrop-shaped craft. If you can imagine a teardrop, like a water drop, but with the blunt end going forward and the pointy end at the back.
Wow.
I've always said that humans were not created by aliens. As much as one particular faction would like us to believe that was the case, that isn't. Humanity has been around in the multiverse for a very, very long time. But the human form that we have today is relatively new. I never accepted for 1 minute the Darwinian theory of evolution for humans. I accept it for animals, no problem at all. But for human evolution, I'm sorry, it just doesn't fit. It's not enough time frame to develop the complex creatures that we on this planet are. So it always was clear to me that something had happened, that some form of enhancement or development has taken place, probably on many accounts. They were altered and changed, and the 10 strands of DNA were removed from them. But because you see of multiverse or universal law, or perhaps better, the law of source, it is illegal with great consequences to destroy or kill DNA. You cannot do it. So what happened was that it was placed what I call out of phase. So neither in the 3rd dimension or the 4th dimension, just out of phase around every human. So there is an arc around every human. And humans understand that as their higher self. So your higher self is your 10 strands of disarticulated energetic DNA that hang over your body. DNA is a memory. You can actually recall memory if you can link in. And many people think they are accessing the Akashic records. They're not. They're actually accessing their DNA memory. And so it is this that is trying to regain into the body. So it is doing what it's always supposed to do, get back into the body. And some people are better at it than others. And so people are at different speeds of integrating their DNA.
This is a mothership, for want of a better word. I use that word because that's what humans would call it. This is a manted craft which is looking into human timelines. When you are born and when you die, you have a timeline. You exist. Let's just talk about this one reality. You have one timeline. If you want to be contacted or abducted, then it isn't just chance. This is project management on the nth degree. So they will come for you at 2 seconds past 2 o'clock, and they will spend 30 seconds with you or 50 seconds, and it has to be all project managed out. The guys on the front here, they're actually flying the craft. There are no poles holding the seats up. They are meant to be floating in the air. That's exactly what they're doing. These are viewing screens, and they are square. It's about one of the few square or oblong things you'll find on an alien craft. Most things are round or curved, but their viewing screens tend to be oblong or square. So they're flying it. These ones here are coordinating the information which is coming from the lower deck. We'll have a look at the lower deck in a moment. What I've tried to do is to draw the craft to show you how the power, the whole ship acts as a lifting body. It doesn't work like an aeroplane. The whole craft, some people refer to it as alive. That's not quite accurate, but it has to be the shape to conduct the energy around the hull of the craft.
And learnt not to be open, not to discuss it, because outside of the very close family, most people can't handle it.
And so this progressed through your childhood, and quite early on, you lost your virginity to one of these aliens.
This is holographic, so I wouldn't have actually lost my virginity. This is a holographic image. We think we have some wonderful technology here on this earth, but the technology that I've seen far surpasses anything that we have here, or at least anything that the military tell us they have. This was a holographic experience.
How old were you?
That would be about 1965.
What age were you then?
I would be about 5 or 6.
You lost your virginity at 6 years old?
No, I didn't say that. It was a holographic representation.
So you had a sexual encounter?
With exactly,
at 6 years old?
Absolutely, yes.
So age doesn't matter to them?
No, because it's about experience, it's about your soul. I know in the West we don't really understand soul.
You went on to have non-holographic sex with an alien called a lion lady. Mm-hmm. Yes, and although you weren't attracted to her, you said that wasn't really what it was about. It wasn't like what we have here, where there's sort of, for the majority of people, there has to be a sort of attraction. It was for other means.
This is an incredibly difficult subject for most people to understand, and I fully appreciate that most people can't get their head around it. We're talking about creatures that have the ability to enter your mind, to go into your mind and give you images, and to make you think one thing when actually you think another. So I think these creatures would have actually come into my mind and made me appear to love them, because otherwise you wouldn't actually have a sexual reaction with anybody unless you felt something for them. So I think it's more to do with that than anything else.
Does that not bother you that they're doing that?
Well,
I mean, I'd be quite upset if someone came into my mind and convinced me that I fancied them.
Yeah, the thing is, I've seen these creatures ever since I was very young.
Yeah.
From a very early age, and when you realise that humanity is not the only thing in this galaxy, when you get used to these creatures and you realise that mankind is literally just a pinprick in a massive constellation, some things become less important.
This is the lower level. What you've got here is these guys who are sitting, operating everything below this line. The standing guys here are operating everything above here. These two are sort of coordinators. Is the commander come down? So what these guys are doing is sending the information up to the top. So the twofold operation would be to identify where you're going to go to abduct people or contact people, and also to eavesdrop on every human communication available, and also enemy aliens. Because if you're interested in a certain human, you bet you someone else is as well, whether it's the NSA or the CIA, and you want to get there first. So when I say it's a game, I don't mean to belittle it, but it is very much like a game of chess.
Technologies, you like this, I hope. You put your hand over what appears to be a solid piece of metal, a shape appears, it lifts up, floats up like that, and this device here allows the commander to observe the power plant. So diamonds, triangles, squares, oblongs all move across here passing information, so you don't have to go and do a diagnostic of your power plant. That does it all, and then you just hold it out and it drops straight back into the metal. It's a morphing metal. Transportation in tubes, you stand on a little disc and it flies you up. The little greys don't travel on those, they have little trains. Literally, like, think of a mine shaft where you see all the trains, but they run on a monorail, and the greys will sit in that, and if you like, the underground bases, those that are left.
The culture of a Draconis reptilian is one of ultimate power and greed without a concept of caring or sharing. And when you have a background of absolute command and control, you don't have that understanding or that capacity to come to the table and have this debate. That's the problem. This is why I talk about the culture and the ceremony and the ritual of these creatures, because they can't just come to a table and sit down and say, okay, cards on the table, we'll give this, what will you give? They can't do that until they can accept and understand that they are equal and they don't have a God-given right to eat people, to put it bluntly. There won't be a change. We are on a positive timeline, positive in the sense that it is human consciousness that is now calling the shots and not some small group. There will only be one outcome, and that is an advancement. So until these and you're right, Tolek, there's only a small group of Draconis reptilians left now on the planet. Some of them walk as I joke with Wynne, walk the corridors of the Vatican. They need to understand that there is no get-out-of-jail card. What they've got to do is to be very, very proud of their culture, but they need to give up certain elements of their culture which teach them that they are better than anybody else, and that they are equal. But I can see that they are going to destroy themselves unless they make a change. And that's what they need to do. And if they don't make a change, they can't blame anybody but themselves.